Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Celtics Media Day, and we are joined by a guy who needs very little introduction, Kyrie Irving. Kyrie, thanks so much for joining
Uncle
us.
Drew.
Appreciate you having me. Thank you.
Now, your car hasn't broke down again, has it?
No, it has not.
Okay, good.
Thank God it has not. It's not. It's getting fixed right now, which I'm excited to get it back. But, yeah, I learned my lesson.
That's
Yeah.
the only reason there was a team bus today. We
Yeah,
didn't want
yeah.
anyone breaking down on the way
Was
here.
JJ driving it, too?
No, yeah, JJ did pick me up, though. I'm very appreciative of
Always
that, though.
comes through in a clutch.
Yeah, for sure.
I feel that. But, Kyrie, you had mentioned that you've just been go, go, go. You were shooting for the movie Uncle Drew. You came back and kind of getting acclimated to Boston, maybe some informal workouts as well.
Yeah.
But what has that been like for you to kind of maybe get started a little bit to meet your new teammates?
It's been awesome. Understanding that the amount of ground that we have to make up in a short amount of time, that right there is a challenge in itself, but you get excited about that. Thinking about the new players that we have, as well as the system that we got to incorporate for the benefit of all of us in order to be at our high level. So we have a few things and a few steps that we can't skip. This is truly a preseason for all of us coming in, because this is just a lot of newness. It's a lot of things that we have to figure out in a short amount of time, like I said. So getting acclimated was the first step. Getting here actually was the first step, and then getting well acclimated, and then learning guys' names and learning the concepts and the ideals that have always been a tradition for the Celtics organization, incorporate myself with that, and then getting to know everybody. So
Right. And you mentioned having to make up a lot of ground. Maybe how do you expedite that process, and what steps do you have to take that you can't skip?
See, that becomes the challenging part. One of the many leaders that we have on this team, starting with the coaching staff as well as management, then echoing down to the players, the key thing is to be patient, because if you aren't and you expect it to happen right away and you skip those steps of honestly getting to know a human being for who they are, and then incorporating basketball into it, and then getting the best out of them. So there are like things that you cannot skip at all. So and one of those things is really trust. It's really getting to know one another and being on the floor with one another. Like when I watch Gordon's highlights, his talent in Utah was utilized so much differently than what we'll utilize him here, and you'll see just more opportunities for him. And then you see Al, he's a passing big, and you'll see more opportunities for him to get his assists more. And then Terry Rozier, and playing against him every single day, and we're going against each other, and Marcus Smart. So now when you incorporate all those things of the daily grind of being teammates, that's when you can expedite that process of going through training camp and understand that what we need to get accomplished every single day is something very important for us.
I'm curious for you as a point guard in particular. This is the first situation where you're coming to a team. It's all new teammates.
Yeah.
I mean, you've never played with. I'm sure you have at some point, on the court at some point, but you've got to learn all of these guys' strengths and weaknesses as the point guard, where they like to catch the ball on the court, where they like to catch the ball just in general to set them up. So when you go into training camp, what are you concentrating on to try to learn those things and figure out what your teammates want to do on the court alongside you?
Well, that becomes the exciting part for me, because I'm just such an avid observer and I'm such an avid watcher of film. So that doesn't bother me and get into, or not say bother, not that I got that from your question, but it just excites me about that part of getting to learn other people's strengths and weaknesses, because that's what makes the game beautiful, is the individuality that we all have as talented players, and then how we incorporate it as a collective group. And then as the point guard, I have to figure out what best suits not only for Coach Stevens, what he sees, but for me as well, as in throwing my game in there, and then how do I best fit everyone to be in the best position for us to win. So I can't wait. I've already been watching Al's highlights. I haven't watched all his highlights. I watched Marcus' defensive highlights, his offensive highlights, Terry, a ton of them, ton of defensive highlights, Gordon's highlights, as well as Jason's, as well as Jalen. So I'm just throwing myself in there and just getting to know those guys from YouTube, honestly, first, and then being on the court with them and seeing how talented they are in real life.
Well, you and also Gordon Hayward, Al Horford, can be really viewed as leaders on this team with that all-star experience. How do you maybe plan to use each other as resources going forward?
Well, the best part about it is having, not only that we have the youth on the team, that they're coming in fresh-faced into a situation that honestly only experience can be the best teacher for that. The young guys that are coming in, then when you have a individual such as myself, I'm 25 years old, but I'm going on year 7, which is crazy. It took me a minute this morning to realize that I'm really going on year 7. So And then Gordon is, I think, on year 9, and then Al is up there. We'll
Yeah.
just say Al's up there.
11.
We won't throw Al's.
Yeah.
We won't throw Al's years up there. Once you pass 10,
He tweeted it earlier, so I think we're okay to talk about it.
He might be the only plus 30 guy on the team.
once you add that,
Let's not tell him that.
Al, I said Al, whatever you want, you got it.
Yeah.
You got it. You're the veteran, true veteran on this team.
The old
you got
man.
it. Yeah. So it's easier to lean on guys like that because they understand, and then also being competitors. And going against one another, going against Gordon. I haven't won in Utah since like 2014 or 2013, and he was part of that team that was going against us and really wanted to beat us because we were that team that had the target on the back, and now we're on the flip side of that together, of being having that target on our back and having teams give us their best shots. And then Al, I've been playing against Al for 7 years as well in the Eastern Conference. So I know Al playing against him in the second round of the playoffs as well as the Eastern Conference Finals when he was with the Hawks as well as when he was with the Celtics currently. So it's easy to lean on guys like that because they understand the magnitude of what's ahead of us and what's to come, and then obviously the flow of what the NBA season can do to individuals or do to teams because it's always like this. It's always up and down. It could be ups for however many days or however many weeks, and then you can hit a rut in an instant. And you just want to be able to have even kill leaders that you can look to, and that's what Gordon and Al embody, and you guys know that. They're always like constantly just even kill no matter what the situation
And
is.
Brad.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
when you have a coach like that, and it's Danny whose experience was a championship winner, so you got guys that you can lean on.
Now, you talked a couple minutes ago about how Gordon is not necessarily going to be used the same way he was in Utah. How about you? I mean, you're going to be used differently here than you were in Cleveland as well. So what do you anticipate is going to be different for you?
Just a lot of opportunities around the basket, a lot more, and a lot more open opportunities coming off our offense. It's going to be – I've already gotten a glimpse of what Brad has in store, and when you look at comparative to some of the situations that I was in last year, deemed my role that was on that team, compared to now, I have the ball in my hands as well as having an offense that's just equated for the talents that we have on the floor. A lot of spacing, and I just can't wait to have those opportunities wherever they come. The first step is just getting to training camp and seeing where they're going to come from because I know I'm going to be very awkward at first and trying to overpass and trying to over-penetrate and do things, but that's the beautiful thing
That's
about
day
figuring
one of
out.
camp,
Yeah,
right?
that's
Like
what I'm saying,
everyone.
yeah.
Like Brad's
Everyone.
probably going to look and say, all right, ball's flying out of
and
bounds
that's the
all day.
patience
But
part. That's the patience part because if you leave that day and training camp the first day, it's like, oh, man, I have so much to figure out. It's just you have days to honestly dial in.
those growing pains, too.
Absolutely. And then, like I said, also when you have Gordon and Brad and Al and Danny, like our organization and stuff like that, we understand that it's new guys, new systems that we have to get adjusted to. So it's going to take time.
Well, you were a part of a championship culture in Cleveland. How do you plan to bring that not only mentality to the Celtics, but overall play to this team?
See, it's hard to bring a whole culture with you. You understand the understanding of the culture because that's ultimately dictated by the individuals that you're around. So that right there exists in itself. That culture will be in Cleveland for as long as those individuals are there and as long as I'm connected to it as well, which is forever because that championship culture, it can only be a championship culture unless you win one. So right there, that already exists, and I'm super proud that I was a part of it. But now what you bring from that, from that standpoint, is just the experience, and that's the beautiful part about it because I get to share those thoughts and share those experiences with them, and it turned into wisdom rather than me just learning it on the fly, which is what some of the guys on the team are going to have to do. And ultimately, when you learn from them and you grow from them, it turns to wisdom, and then we'll hopefully have our own championship culture. That's what we want to build into, and that's how you garner it. It's already a championship organization that we're part of, but now we have to build our own championship culture, which niches like the 2008 Boston Celtics team forever. Like that's a bond that you can't break ever because those up and downs of what you went through in the season, you can't ever mimic or get back from or try to recreate with another team.
Now, Danny told me a couple of weeks ago that he thinks that one part of your game that he hasn't necessarily seen it get to the height yet, that he thinks is there, is passing.
Yeah.
A lot of people out there haven't seen your passing skills basically opened up and you take the lid off and Brad says, hey, do your thing.
Yeah.
So how do you think your passing skills are going to be able to excel a little bit in Brad's offense and in this situation with the players alongside you?
I've always had passing skills.
Right.
It became figuring out what would be best for the team and whatever role that I was going to be defined in.
And that's it, right? The role.
And literally that is exactly it. Yeah, as much as you would love to do other things, as much as you would have that kind of impatience inside you, like, I want to do this, I want to do this. It's just that as selfless as you need to be in order to be part of a great team, that's part of being a great player, is being able to adjust to that. So, being able to step into this role now and being able to have shooters and being able to know what offense is coming and when I'm getting the ball necessarily and when it's my time to go and when all that figuring out happens, that's when you become a complete player. So that's all I'm looking forward to, is becoming that true point guard. So.
Well, I know that we're looking forward to seeing you guys get started tomorrow at
Can't
training
wait.
camp.
Yes,
Kyrie, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me.
All
We're
right,
going to
good
take a
luck.
quick commercial break.